What's going on, everybody? It's Talk Picks by Tim, and in today's video I wanted to talk about specifically Bitcoin. We're going to look at an important event coming up called the halving. If you don't know what it is, we're going to get into it really quick, and I'm going to bring up some interesting facts here and some things you're going to have to look out for moving forwards for Bitcoin. And we'll also pull up the chart here at the end. Now, if you like these videos, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. These are definitely a little different than my normal stock videos. And let's look at a couple things. Alright guys, now here behind me is the Bitcoin halving clock, and I will leave this down below for you in a link along with some free stocks and cryptos. Now, one thing you'll see here is the 2024 halving date. Estimated time of arrival is going to be somewhere around April of 2024. We've got about 480 days until this next halving. Now, if you're curious about what the halving is, well, new Bitcoins are issued by the Bitcoin network every 10 minutes. For the first 4 years of Bitcoin's existence, the amount of Bitcoins issued every 10 minutes was 50. Every 4 years, this number is cut in half. The day the amount halves is called a halving or halvening. Now, in 2012, the amount of new Bitcoins issued every 10 minutes dropped from 50 to 25. In 2016, it dropped from 25 to 12.5. In the most recent halving, May 11 of 2020, the reward dropped from 12.5 Bitcoin to 6.25 Bitcoin per block. Now, in this next halving of 2024, the reward will give 3.125 Bitcoin per block. So, in the end, what does this mean? Well, it means Bitcoin being produced, Bitcoin added to the pool of available Bitcoin to buy. Well, this number over time, every halving shrinks. So the amount of new Bitcoins issued over time gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And this typically causes a huge crunch for supply and demand. And this says the halving decreases the amount of new Bitcoins generated per block, which means the supply of new Bitcoins is lower, making buying more expensive, depending on the market, of course. In normal markets, lower supply with steady demand usually leads to higher prices. Since the halving reduces the supply of new Bitcoin, the demand usually remains steady. The halving has usually preceded some of Bitcoin's largest runs. Even the hype leading up to the halving, the fact that we know the halving is coming typically 1 year beforehand, is when we start seeing a little bit of rally. Now, what does this mean? This means we are somewhere around 4 months away from the realization that we're about a year away from the halving. This is when things will start running up, in my opinion. Now, the overall market, the macro environment could potentially change the halving this time. I personally don't think so. I think Bitcoin will still get some hype 1 year up to the halving. And even looking at this little chart here, you'll see that, we have this run up after the halving, and then we have a little bit of a downturn, a little bit of a decrease towards the middle point. And then towards when we're about a year away, we start running back up in anticipation of the next halving. Here we have it on all of the ends here. And this one, while it did pull up, it pulled back a little bit. It still ended higher than that run up started. So in the end, each halving a year beforehand, we start seeing a little bit of a run up on Bitcoin. Now, I do have another article here I wanted to show you, but first off, I did want to mention a trend I posted in Discord. We were on this ascending support level. We broke it. It does seem like it's flipping this white line, becomes a resistance, becomes a support. It seems like it's becoming a resistance again. You're definitely going to want to watch it. It is the $17,000 mark, but it does seem like it's becoming a resistance. We may start pulling back and come down and test these lows. However, like I've said, even in the 20s and 30,000s, I still think Bitcoin is a great buy. And it's easy in hindsight to say you should have just waited to buy in the, tens of thousands. But in the end, even if buying at 20,000, 30,000, even potentially higher than that, after the next halving, those prices will be sorely missed. And I'm saying that right now with Bitcoin in the $16,000 area. But short term, I wouldn't be surprised to see this come down towards these lows or even create new lows. However, that being said, we all know what's going to happen soon. In a couple of months, we will only be at 1 year away from the halving. And I wanted to bring up an old article. This is from the last halving, and it's titled 250 Days to Bitcoin's Halving. History suggests a surge afterwards. However, when you go back here, towards the bottom of this article here, it says, is history an indicator? The big question, however, is whether the halving was priced in during the year's bull market. They did experience a bull market coming up to this halving. It's impossible to know for sure, but popular trader Moon Overlord made a correct prediction based on historic facts back in April. He stated that on average, the crypto has started pumping around 1 year prior to the halving. And he says Bitcoin has traditionally started pumping around 1 year on average before its halving date. On average before its halving date. Okay, keep that in mind. The next halving is estimated to be May 2020, meaning that the uptrend will begin in May of this year, May of 2019. And this article says Bitcoin really did rally hard in May. The price rose from around 5,200 at the beginning of the month to about 8,200 at the month's end, marking an increase of more than 57% just in that month. It'll be interesting to see whether or not this pattern holds before or after the 2020 halving. And we know what happened there. Here's the 2020 halving here at 8,000. What happened? Well, the government started printing unlimited money. Bitcoin, of course, had its bull run, its halving cycle. So a lot of things contributed to this huge run. Will we see something again? I personally think we will get to new highs, but we won't just have an exponential, insane gain. You know, you're talking about $8,000 to $70,000 in a very short period of time. I find it a bit far-fetched if the government doesn't print money like they did, and that is likely not going to happen ever again. However, that being said, I see huge gains coming for Bitcoin. And one thing I marked here on the chart is this is when we're 1 year away from the next halving. We are approaching it. Like I said, we're only 4 months away. Now, what's going to happen? Do we start downtrending up to this year mark before the next halving? Do we just trade sideways? Do we slightly uptrend? I think it's irrelevant. I think you need to really watch this time in 4 months from now. And regardless of, in the meantime, in the next 4 months, if we pull back, if we go up, if we trade sideways, I think that's all irrelevant. And regardless, in my opinion, it's time to be a buyer. But I can't tell you what to do. I'm just saying what I'm doing. I see Bitcoin right now is a great time to add. And even in 4 months, keep an eye on it. We might start our little uptrend. If you're a trend rider, if you want to just ride that uptrend, keep an eye on this in 4 months. And in the end, despite all the fear, all the pessimism, Bitcoin is still playing according to its cycle. We are in for maybe slightly a little bit more pain until the next halving, but time is ticking and we're nearly only a year away. Will history repeat itself? Will things change? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks as always. I appreciate you, and take it easy.